Angel Sight 6, Episode 3. In this segment, I will provide you with information which leads to an attack I suffered in a hotel near the town of Evergreen, Colorado. The assault that morning was so violent, it had to be blocked from my memory for several days to protect my sanity. The story begins at the place of my employment, 10 miles west of Denver, Colorado, near the base of the Rocky Mountains. It was a work day like any other, filled with paperwork, phone calls, and the occasional customer. Finding time in the afternoon for a break, my mind began wandering to the same question it had for years: what to do with the photograph Chris Marmara had sent me. Looking to the Lord for a solution, these words ran in my mind: God, you are just going to have to hit me over the head with the answer, or send someone through that front door who knows what you want me to do with the picture. Shortly afterwards, a woman shuffled in. Her name was Laura. Sent by corporate, she had come to interview for the position as office manager. Having made it through the initial screening process, the decision to hire her was mine. She was not the perfect candidate, but had a terrific attitude, so I took a chance and offered her the job. As it turned out, what Laura lacked in motor skills, she more than made up for in effort. To that point, while suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, Laura turned down her government-approved disability in order to accept the position, which I later found was truly a testament to her character and work ethic. 6 months older than me, Laura and I were in our late 50s when we began working together. Discovering our love for the Lord was the same. We often found ourselves engaged in deep theological conversations, covering everything from creation to the second coming. The first person to hear my life stories of angelic encounters, she encouraged me to write a book, saying with confidence, people will believe you. At this time, I've covered Laura in somewhat personal detail, in the hope that you will come to see her importance to this story. Clients Carl, Megan, their young son Carter, and new baby girl all came into my life in August of 2019. In search of flooring for a hotel they purchased in Evergreen, I was happy to be of assistance. Following along, as I reviewed the blueprints of their property, I quickly discerned how sharp the two were. It was also easy to see their young son Carter was going to be just as intelligent as his parents. The boy was not yet capable of putting together a complete sentence, but clearly understood how to say water when he was thirsty or up when he saw a lift moving in front of the store. At our prearranged second meeting, after examining the drawings provided by my estimator, it was apparent the dimensions of the bar were missing. Carl offered to create a sketch of the area, and I'm certain he would have done a fine job. But as store manager, experience told me to visit the site for myself. In fact, I decided to double-check all the measurements, reasoning it would give me a chance to identify any potential problems that could not be seen on paper. After driving 30 minutes up the mountains, I pulled into a dirt parking lot adjacent to the hotel. Carl met me at the front of the building and began pointing out the numerous repairs he had made to the exterior. His work was impeccable. Every finish and color matched perfectly. Carl led the way as we moved through the entrance doors, turned left at the foyer, and started down a hallway. Passing the check-in counter, we continued a short distance to the open expanse of the bar. Angling left, we stepped down to the tavern floor. Immediately, it was apparent I made the right decision visiting the inn. The large structure had been built in phases over many years, and I will just say, people had been creative with their additions. Exiting the bar, We crossed the hallway to a set of stairs. Turning right, I followed as Carl led the way up to what I will call the midpoint landing. Ascending a second flight, we found ourselves at the far end of a long corridor. Traveling the length, I measured the rooms from side to side before returning to the midpoint landing. Crossing over to another set of stairs, I looked up in awe. The rungs on the case ahead were steep, wide, and numbered many more than a typical flight. Perilous was my thought. Taking hold of the lone rail on our right, we climbed the staircase, again me following Carl. Nearing the top, we crested a landing, where I noticed a large rectangular notch cut out of the riser ahead. Approximately 5 feet wide and 3 feet deep, it was designed to make you check your footing prior to stepping off the uppermost level. Reaching the top, we turned right and walked down a short passageway. Pausing near the end, Carl pointed to a camera he had previously set in place. Thinking nothing of the small device, I wasted no time and began measuring the 2 adjoining rooms on my right. Stepping back into the passageway, I noticed Carl had oddly left the area. Continuing, I moved toward the open door in front of me, when a voice above and on my right began calling out, "Something's here, something's here." Motionless, I stared at the white door frame as the sounding continued. Recalling a similar experience when I was 7, and again when I was in my early 20s, it was apparent there was danger ahead. In both cases, just mentioned, heeding the warning saved my life. Confused, I scanned the surrounding area and into the small room. Recognizing there was no way to get accurate measurements without stepping in, I did just that. The panic voice followed and continued its repetitious alert. Fumbling with my laser, I was having trouble concentrating, forcing me to start over several times. When suddenly, a demonic sensation entered the far end of the room. Turning to look, there was nothing there except the unmistakable presence of evil. Lingering for a moment before bolting for the door, my shoulder brushed the frame as I rushed terrified into the passageway. Perceiving a pecking sensation on the back of my upper right arm, everything went blank. Looking at Carl, I wondered, why am I staring at Carl? Motionless and standing midway down the bottom flight of stairs, my head was turned left while my hand gripped the rail. Breaking the trance that seemed to be holding me, I stepped down to the main floor, crossed the hallway, and moved alongside Carl. Placing my clipboard on the counter beside me, it was only a matter of seconds before he began asking a series of questions. Wanting to know if anything unusual occurred while I was upstairs, my response was, "Nothing out of the ordinary happened." Appearing suspicious, he tilted his head in disbelief. Not certain if I should mention the presence in the room, voice above, or pecking on my arm, I remained silent. The reason was simple. At that time, I was a 58-year-old man. I do not hear voices or imagine strange sensations. There had to be a logical explanation. After answering Carl's questions, Megan moved up and began her inquiry. Repeating what I said, the 2 appeared confused and not at all satisfied with my responses. Revealing the reason for their inquiry, Carl told me about a man who committed suicide in the small upstairs room and was apparently known to be haunting the establishment. Dismissing the idea as superstition, my attention was drawn to young Carter as he walked past. Moving from my right to left and wearing only a diaper, he turned into an open door further down the hallway. Wondering why I had not seen Megan or the children earlier, it occurred to me just then they must have been in the family living quarters when I arrived. Continuing our discussion on supernatural activities, the conversation turned to the book I was writing. Sharing the stories about my sister being pulled from a speeding car and events surrounding my time in a Japanese cemetery, the couple appeared clearly impressed. Megan even complimented my passionate delivery and said I would be great on tour. Saying goodbye to the couple, I exited the building and headed for the dirt parking lot. Standing beside my car, I located the window associated with the small room and stared at it for a prolonged period, thinking about the suicide. When, unexpectedly, a tingling sensation began raining down on me. Recognizing the phenomenon from previous encounters, I jumped into my automobile and started the engine as the demonic presence settled in behind me. Racing up a steep incline toward the paved road, I resisted the urge to floor the accelerator, knowing the asphalt transition ahead would damage my car. After passing the front of the hotel, it felt as if a vile spirit had vanished. Finding myself surprisingly relaxed, I tuned the radio as I drove off. Please watch my next episode. And again, thank you for your time.